Dufour's team as well. Adam Antonio is the spokesperson for Dr. Dufour. Hopefully, by the end of the show, I will know what is happening on Saturday. By the way, the EC also held a meeting with the sites today, and when I come back, I'll start with Hansen on that. Stay with us. Welcome back. So tonight on The Point of View, we will be telling you what on earth is happening with the NDC as they prepare for their 13th May election. Now, all was set for that election. We were getting ready with our team, only to be told that yesterday, the 9th of May, an injunction had been served, an interlocutory injunction, on the NDC's General Secretary, the NDC's Director of Elections, as well as the Electoral Commission, and of course, the two other candidates of the election, John Mahama and Kojo Bonsu, by the team of Dr. Kwabena Dufour, asking for the election to be suspended. We'll get the details of that with my colleague in studio, Hansen Ajiman, who's joining me. Hansen, thanks for joining me on the show today. He's been following the program. He'll give us some insights. We have also seen a letter from the Electoral Commission, which is essentially saying we're going to wait until you guys resolve your matters before we continue with the election. So there isn't too much clarity on if the election is coming on or not. In the course of the show, we'll speak to key officials of the NDC and also the Dr. Dufour camp to get clarity. So Hansen, let's start with the Electoral Commission. I understand they met at noon today. Who did they meet and what did they say? So
they met with the executives of the NDC and also some representatives of the three candidates aspiring to be presidential candidates. Now, the delegation from the NDC, when they were going for the meeting, the understanding was that they were going to have engagements on concerns that had been raised by Dr. Kwabena Dufour with respect to the photo album register. But when they got there, the Electoral Commission said even though the meeting was scheduled to hear those concerns and see how best to address it, the issues have changed because they were served with an interlocutory injunction application. And so they want to hold on to their supervision of the election by the NDC until the court issues are addressed. So essentially, the meeting that was scheduled, the object or subject of the meeting this on Wednesday afternoon actually didn't happen. That had to be cancelled. And the EC just used it as an opportunity to announce their decision to them that they were not going to supervise the election anymore. Which suggests that prior to the court matter, the Dufour team had written to the EC raising some concerns, which concerns the EC was hoping to resolve earlier in the day. So at the time the EC was putting the meeting together, they hadn't seen the injunction. They have not. So okay. the idea was Dufour petitioned the EC because per law, the EC is supposed to supervise the election. That these are anomalies that he has seen with the register. And so the EC should step in addressing it. So the EC came here as a third party to call the NDC and then Dr. Dufour and other relevant stakeholders to address the matter. But before that meeting could come to place, then the petition, the application, the interlocutory injunction application was served on the EC. And the EC took a legal decision that in order to avoid any contempt issues, then they have to suspend the supervision of the election. Let's actually read the letter because I think we have the letter that we'll put up for you. So if you have the highlights, you can just read through quickly for us, and then we'll see what the substantive matter itself is. I think it's just a two-page letter. Yes, so it starts with, on behalf of the Electoral Commission, so this was actually read by the chairperson of the commission. So this is Jean Adukwe Mensah? Yes. I see. On behalf of the Electoral Commission, I welcome you to the offices of the commission this afternoon. As we are all aware, we haven't had the participation of the NDC at our IPAC meeting since 2021. We hope that you are honoring our invitation to this meeting will pave the way for the NDC to return to IPAC and be part of the important discussions that take place there. We have called this meeting this afternoon to inform you about our decision on a matter that lies before us. As we are all aware, the NDC invited the Electoral Commission to supervise the conduct of its presidential and parliamentary primaries slated for Saturday, May 13, 2023. Several meetings have been held between the Commission and the Elections Committee of the NDC to discuss the modalities. A set of guidelines have been agreed upon with the Elections Committee of the NDC. Key among the guidelines is a requirement that the register to govern the election will be made available to the contesting parties by the Elections Committee of the NDC at least 7 days before the conduct of the elections. Earlier this week, the Commission received a letter from Dr. Kwabena Duffuor campaign alleging various errors and anomalies with the register. It was based on this that the Commission felt it necessary to meet with the Elections Committee of the NDC as well as the representatives of the presidential aspirants to deliberate on this matter and agree on a way forward. That meeting was to have been held today. However, yesterday we were served with an application for interlocutory injunction seeking to restrain the Commission from supervising the conduct of the presidential and parliamentary primaries due to the alleged anomalies with the register. In order that we are not cited for contempt, the Commission has taken the decision not to supervise the conduct of the presidential and parliamentary elections until after the determination of the case by the court. We thought we should bring this to your attention. Therefore, the meeting called to discuss the concerns of the Kwabena Duffuor campaign team has been cancelled.
Very interesting indeed. And I have a photo taken. We are not sure if this photo was taken before the meeting or after, but you see the EC chair in Mensa, flanked by the chairman of NDC, General Mosquito. On her right is Roger Maltonunu, who incidentally in the 2020 election was one of the people...
witnesses of...
yes, so I believe he was one of the people in the so-called strong room, which of course had changed to a different arrangement. Now, to General Mosquito's left is Bosman Asari. To Rojo's right, I think it's another official of the EC.
Dr. Tete.
Yes, and then to his right is somebody I'm not sure I identify immediately. But this meeting, the picture looked very happy. So I'm not sure if this picture was taken before or after. We will come to what Dr. Duffuor's camp has been saying. But I have two things in front of me. One is a writ of summons. And then the other appears to be something like a follow-up document. You are the guys in law school, so you can tell me what it is. But what is Dr. Duffuor's point? What is he trying to say? Who are the people who have been served with these processes?
So the first document is Dr. Duffuor's main case, which he has sued the 5 persons here. That's the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, the Director of Elections of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, who is a candidate in the election, and Mr. Kojo Bonsu, who is a candidate in the election as well, and the Electoral Commission of Ghana. Now,
so these are the 5. Fifi Kwete, General Secretary, the Director of Elections, who will be Alex Ebefia.
Yes.
Then John Mahama, the candidate the candidate, Kojo Bonsu, another candidate, and then EC.
Yes, and then the EC. Okay. So these are the 5 persons who have been sued, and Dr. Duffuor essentially is seeking is 3 main reliefs.
3 main reliefs.
The first one is that a declaration that the photo album register issued by the first and second defendants to the plaintiff on 4th May 2023 as the primary document for conducting the internal presidential election of the National Democratic Congress on May 13, 2023 is incomplete and inaccurate.
So a declaration that the photo album issued by the first and second defendant is the General Secretary, and
the second
defendant is the Director of Elections. So these two, the photo album they issued on 4th May is incomplete and inaccurate. So that's the first relief.
That's the first relief. And the second relief, an order directing the first and second defendants to prepare and deliver a complete and accurate photo album register to the plaintiff and other presidential aspirants of the NDC at least 5 weeks ahead of the elections to enable the aspirants carry out the needed verification of the photo album. Before this came out, there had been interviews by persons within the campaign team of Dr. Duffuor asking for a postponement of the elections for some of these issues to address. By relief number B, we get to understand that Dr. Duffuor is looking for at least 5 weeks postponement of the election.
5 weeks.
So that will take us to somewhere in June ending.
Middle of June, or to the end of June.
Yeah, to the end of June.
So that's the second.
That's the second relief he's seeking. And the third one is an injunction restraining the first, second, and fifth defendants from conducting the internal presidential elections of the National Democratic
So
Congress.
this is the one the EC spoke about. So that injunction saying that the General Secretary, the Director of Elections in the EC, should be prevented
from conducting
or restrained
from conducting the elections
on 13th May
until the relief in B particularly has been addressed, which is for a credible and a complete and accurate photo album register to have been prepared and delivered to them 5 weeks ahead of the conduct of the election.
Wow, and they want this to be done with costs awarded to the
yes, so these are other reliefs that if it deems the court fit, cost and any other relief that the court may deem fit.
First point of difference I noticed, in the EC letter you read, the fourth paragraph, according to the EC, is that key among the guidelines is the requirement that the register to govern the election be made available to the contesting parties by the EC by the Elections Committee of the NDC at least 7 days. At least 7 days for the conduct of elections. Dr. Dufour's team is asking for this 5 weeks. So EC is saying the guidelines that they know, 7 days should be enough. Dr. Dufour's team says no, we want this 5 weeks. So that's a very serious point of difference.
Yes, and in his statement of claim, he repeated severally that there have been engagements on the need for this register to be given to them and for them to have ample time to do their verification and to be able to determine which people are actually going to vote. And so for him, despite the fact that the Electoral Commission is indicating at least 7 days, and if the use of at least 7 days suggests that it can be given to them earlier, and he's thinking that 5 weeks will be good enough for them to have done the verification that they ought to do.
We will get into the details of the concerns raised about the register, because it seems as if there were some engagements, then some data was given, which is supposed to be the album or part of the album. The team for Dr. Dufour then says this album is inaccurate, and there are some names missing, and then there are some names we also don't understand, and we also want the rest of the 55 constituencies. So this is the information so far. I don't know if I have somebody online to speak to. Before I do that, though, so Hansen, if you can walk me through the key problems they have with what has happened so far in terms of the specific claims they are making, I would be very happy indeed.
So Dr. Dufour's team is indicating that first, the photo album register delayed. The party delayed in giving it to them. They gave it to them on May 4. Now, when they gave it to them on May 4, the promise was that it had 228 constituencies on it. But when they checked, it had only 220 constituencies. So that's the first anomaly that hit them. So 8 constituencies were missing.
Okay.
And even aside that, 220, that means that there are some 55 constituencies that have not been given to them. So then they looked further into these 220 constituencies. They found that an exceptional list of 74,799 delegates have been created to partake in the election.
Wow.
But they are saying that there's scanty information, and so they are not able to verify who these 74,000
people
are. The third leg of this is that they say, for no credible reason, some 3,910 eligible voters in these 220 constituencies have been disenfranchised. So
some 3,000 names are missing.
Some 3,000.
But some 74,000 names have appeared that they don't know.
Yes. And then since then, the 55 constituencies have not been given to them until up to yesterday when they
which is the 9th.
Which is the 9th.
And the election is supposed to be on the 13th.
On the 13th.
So even if they got it today, the 10th, that would be 2 days to the election.
To verify who the
55 constituency people are.
Yes. So
wow.
Generally, these are the issues raised by Dr. Dufo. Now, his team also makes the point that they tried as much as possible to bring this to the attention to the to the NDC to address the matter. So, from paragraph 13 of the statement of claim, the plaintiff repeats the averments in the preceding paragraph and asks that he immediately caused a hard drive to be submitted to the second defendant, which is the director of election, to store the bulky photo album register for the plaintiff. The plaintiff added that, to his surprise, the second defendant failed to provide the voters register to his plaintiff or representatives, as a result of which plaintiff caused his head of research and strategy to send a reminder via WhatsApp to the second defendant and subsequently to the first defendant. The plaintiff avers that, mindful of the fact that time is of essence in verifying the photo album register in the numerous branches in all the 275 constituencies located in the 16 regions of Ghana, he, the plaintiff, caused yet another written reminder dated 2nd May 2023 to be sent to the first defendant, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Democratic Congress, as a follow-up to the aforesaid letter of May 2, 2023. The first and second defendants held a meeting with representatives of all the three presidential aspirants on May 4, 2023, and delivered a hard drive to the plaintiff's representative at the said meeting, which said hard drive, the second defendant, which is the director of elections, indicated that it contains the photo voters register of 228 constituencies, and that the remaining 47 constituencies will be delivered to the representatives of the aspirant on 8 May 2023, but to no avail. So they give an outline on how they have been persistent on the NDC to provide them with these documents.
So they seem pretty serious about this. We'll come back and look at what else is happening, because when our team got to the NDC head office after the meeting, Akosia Ochri spoke to Madi Jibril, who says they will try and resolve the matter with the Dufour team before they're still hopeful the election will come on the 13th. We'll try and find out from officials of the party what's going to happen. This is the point of view. We are looking into the NDC's elections, which are now, you can say, in limbo. We'll discuss all of that when we come back. Stay with us.
Pepsodent introduces charcoal and lemon essence. The unique combination of natural essences whitens teeth naturally for you and family, because every smile matters. New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
Welcome back. This is still the point of view. Tonight, we're trying to clarify for you what the position is with the NDC's May 13 elections. We know so far that Dr. Konadu has gone to court. He has asked for the election to be suspended until certain things are done. Edem Antonio is a spokesperson. He's joining us to give us an update on the situation. So we do know that an interlocutory injunction had been filed. We also know that a meeting was held earlier in the day between Dr. Dufour's team, the party, and the Electoral Commission. Edem, thanks for joining us. Good evening. So, what is the state of play from the Dr. Dufour team as far as the Saturday election is concerned? Are we to take it that the court matter still stands and the election is not holding on Saturday?
Thank you very much. To the best of my knowledge, yes, because the outcome of the meeting with the Electoral Commission is basically saying that the Electoral Commission is not going to supervise the election until the legal matter is heard. So what it means is that we would have to resolve the legal matter in court, then a timetable or a date to be scheduled for the election to be held. So as of now, come 13th May, the election is not coming up because the Electoral Commission that is supposed to preside over the election is not going to do so.
But the Electoral Commission gave the indication that they would obviously respect what the court says. It's your team that went to court. Is there any indication from Dr. Dufour that the matter will be withdrawn before Saturday?
No, the matter is not going to be withdrawn. We would stick to the current procedure, which is the hearing in the court.
And the hearing is scheduled for 15th, Monday, yes. 15th May?
Yes.
But we understand that the party, NDC, says they would talk to your team, Dr. Dufour's team, to see if the matter can be withdrawn. There hasn't been any meeting, Bernard. I can confirm the only meeting that was held today is a meeting at the Electoral Commission. There hasn't been any meeting between Dr. Dufour's team and the party. If there were a meeting, are there any specific things Dr. Dufour would like to see to convince him to withdraw the case? And is there a possibility of that happening before Saturday? Well, I do not see the possibility because the concerns raised by Dr. Dufour and indeed Kojo Bonsu have got to do with the photo album that the party provided. And to resolve those issues, you cannot move into the election. So the main thrust of this entire issue has got to do with the photo album and the infractions and anomalies that have been identified. And the party have been given the evidence. All we need to do is clean up the album for us to go into the election so that whatever outcome it is, all parties will be happy with it. So until those issues are resolved, I do not think or see any other issue that will lead Dr. Dufour to withdraw the case from court. In the statement of claim, and in terms of the reliefs, we see Doc asking for the fresh, accurate album to be supplied at least 5 weeks to the election. The EC, in their statement after today's meeting, said that the Elections Committee of the NDC ought to present the album to the candidates at least 7 days to the election. So can you give me a sense of why Doc is asking for 5 weeks when the EC thinks 7 days could be enough? If you recall, the initial understanding was that you need to give the stakeholders of a particular election 21 days. So it is in that wisdom or that projection that 5 weeks were proposed. But again, these are the prayers of Dr. Dufour to the court. The court can't grant it or not grant it. And it's all within the remit of the law. So if it's 7 days, 5 weeks, 1 week, whatever it is, what is required is for the NDC to move into the election with a correct, accurate, trusted voters register or photo album. That is all that is needed. So if that is even provided today, then we can go into the election. Some people feel like if you look at the NDC's constitution, when the party is not in power, they select their presidential candidate 2 years or 24 months to the election. We are in May. Elections is December next year. So you've already lost 5 months. This 5 weeks you're asking for or any other extension could further disadvantage the NDC, at least on the basis of what its own constitution prescribes. Is Dr. Dufour not concerned about what that would mean for whoever wins his chances of winning the election in December? Dr. Dufour's concern is that the delegates that vote for the presidential elections are the true delegates that are supposed to vote. And the base document for that to happen is the voters register or the photo album or the delegate list, whatever we will call it. So if the delegate list is flawed, then there is no rush doing something wrong. What we need to do is make sure we are prepared and battle ready for the election 2024. And it starts with our own internal election. And we cannot overlook errors or infractions in a voter album, in the photo album when we have identified it. So we need to have a credible leader, a leader that we can all support, a leader that people decide. So this particular, request or this particular action is one that endures to the benefit of the NDC, and I believe we all should support it. It's not going to disadvantage the NDC in any way at all. Because if any party member goes to vote, and if he does not find his name in the voters register or photo album, that person has been disenfranchised. And we need to protect that person. So that is what Dr. Dufour is doing. If you are able to do it right, it means at the national level we'll be able to do it right.
So this is all part of the party organization, and I'm happy it's happening. We'll be able to learn from this experience going forward in the national election.
Finally, Edem, there's a view that the NDC stands a chance of winning the next election, and that disunity could be its only problem. For a major candidate to go to court with an injunction 3 days to an election is seen as a big sign of disunity. What's your comment on that?
Bernard, thank you very much. I disagree, but let me give you a background to this. Dr. Dufour did engage the party structure because he believed that before he would go to court, he had to engage the party structure. He wrote a letter to the party on the 17th of April requesting the photo album. There was no response from the party. He followed up on the 2nd of May requesting for the photo album. That was not provided. Then a meeting was held on the 4th of May, and an incomplete photo album was given. That consisted of 220 constituencies. Within 2 days, Dr. Dufour's team were able to identify the infractions and provided the evidence. And on the 7th of May, Dr. Dufour wrote to the party again, drawing the attention of the party to the infractions and advising that because of the infractions identified, we should postpone the election, call all stakeholders on the roundtable, and agree on a time frame. The posting of the leadership or some leaders of the party did not inspire confidence. It's as if Dr. Dufour didn't have a case. So after exhausting the internal structure, he only had a law court to run to address the issues concerned. So we need to be able to address what's important, which is the infractions that have been brought to their attention. And it's important to note that another candidate, Kojo Bonsu, says he supports the court because he's also identified some infractions in the photo album. So this does not speak to the disunity at all. In fact, this speaks to the unity of the party, a party ready for elections come 2024. But we need to get our house in order. For us to get our house in order, we need to have a credible voters register or photo album going into our presidential elections. And that is the only way we can even call the block of the EC should they do anything that we don't agree with. And going to court, I must say this, going to court does not make you anti-state. When the NDC exhausted the internal mechanism within the Electoral Commission in the 2020 elections, we were not satisfied. We went to court, even though we didn't win. So going to court should be something that should be encouraged. That after you've exhausted the internal mechanism, we have established that Dr. Dufour did exhaust the internal mechanism before going to court for redress.
All right, thank you, Edem Antonio, for speaking to us. He's a spokesperson for Dr. Kwabena Dufour, who has caused an action to be introduced or initiated in court, asking, among other things, for the an injunction restraining the NDC and the EC from organizing the presidential elections on Saturday. They also want the photo album that was given to them on the 4th of May to be declared as incomplete and inaccurate. And they also want an order directing the General Secretary and the Director of Elections of the NDC to deliver a complete and accurate photo album register to the 3 aspirants. All right. Initially, when this matter came up, the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC said that they were not going to stop Saturday's election because we know that there was a letter written to them. At the time he spoke to us on the radio, I'm not sure he knew there was an action in court.
I'm not sure he was aware. He wasn't aware of that action. In that interview, he was clear that the party was going to use its internal mechanisms to address this, and somehow indicates that the errors so identified by Dr. Dufour's team are not significant enough to warrant postponing the election.
So this was Mustafa Gbande, Deputy General Secretary, yesterday on Eyewitness News talking to the team. Let me talk to him now because I believe this is a different situation. So Deputy General Secretary Mustafa Gbande, thanks for joining us. Good evening.
Thank you, Bernard, for having me. It's good to see you.
Wonderful. It's good to have you too. So yesterday when we spoke on Eyewitness News, I was under the impression that all was clear for Saturday. Our team is ready to cover. We have gotten our jackets. We're warming up with our simulations. But after your meeting with the EC today, we all seemed shocked. The EC is saying they can't do the election until the matter is resolved. What is the latest?
The latest is that the EC, which for all intents and purposes a stakeholder in this election, because you would agree with us that in trying to ensure transparency and credibility of the election, it was important that we rely on the Mother Electoral Commission to organize this exercise. Having said so, in the midst of a court order or a court injunction, I believe that it is right they take the decision they have taken. And so we would explore mechanisms now to have the issues resolved. You will also agree with me that the applicant in this matter, who is a candidate for the presidential election, have not exhausted the internal mechanisms for addressing these concerns. And let me put it on record that the bone of contention, as far as this matter is concerned, is not that it's futile to the credibility of the election, because the election regulation itself mandates that each aspirant is given a delegates list which constitutes the baseline data for the election. The issue of the album is just supplementary to the exercise. And let me also state that all aspirants in the contest have taken delivery of their delegates list about 6 weeks ago. In all of these periods, they've not come to us with any complaint, except that when we gave them the albums, provisionally the ones we have made, then they came up to say that they have some concerns. And those concerns were raised in a meeting 3 days ago, for which they were assured that the committee was going to deal with all of those concerns and then also add the full complement of the album and bring it back to them so that they will not have the opportunity complaining about these issues, because they would have been addressed. Before we realized, as soon as they left the meeting, they wrote the letter you are seeing making itself in the news. Subsequently, you have addressed a letter to the General Secretary calling upon him to intervene. Within 6 hours, you are in court. So which opportunity have you afforded the party to resolve these issues? So clearly, you have a candidate who will not stick to the rules. You have a candidate whose concerns will be addressed but will not afford the body responsible an opportunity to address his concerns. He is interested in going around the cycle and to hold the whole party to ransom. That is where we are now.
His spokesperson tells me they had written to the party general secretary in April and had not received an official response to that letter. So that is one of the reasons why they had to move to court. Are you saying that the letter they wrote in April received a written response from the general secretary?
Bernard, if you wrote to me asking for a cutlass and I brought you a cutlass, would you expect that I write an accompanying letter to you, delivering the cutlass to you? It's simple logic. If they knew, and as far as the guidelines are concerned, the guidelines of the election establishes an elections committee. That same committee was the one that opened the nomination. That same committee was the one that received their nomination. That same committee was the one that scheduled for their vetting. And so they are part and parcel, and they know this committee very well. When you bypass the committee to write to the General Secretary and your concerns are addressed, you don't expect the General Secretary to write back to you. And trust me on this, the General Secretary in his capacity have remained very resolute, very neutral, with a commitment that this election must be transparent, devoid of discrepancies, devoid of acrimonies, so that after the election, we can go forward as a family. Because when you go into the election with a lot of suspicions, then you have a difficult task trying to resolve the issues and the frustration of stakeholders. And so an order was made by the General Secretary that quite apart from the transparent processes that we have put in place, no national executive should declare support to a candidate. We have done so. The General Secretary and the Chairman have remained very neutral in this process. And so I am also putting it on record that when their concerns were raised 3 days ago, the assurance was that they were going to look and correct all the issues and then bring them a full complement of the album. And Bernard, let me also say that in the guidelines of our election, the election guidelines which establishes the authority upon which all of this is happening, state clearly that we are going to use the delegates list, which is a baseline data, very accurate. Everybody knows. Because don't forget that the building of the album, the data itself emanates from the constituencies. So they generate the constituencies and bring it to the regions, and it comes to national. So you will find accurate baseline data at the constituencies. Any other thing are technical errors which can be corrected. And so whilst we are correcting this, we should not be in court. Number two, if someone who asks that, is it not too late that we have just 3 days to election, each aspirant, in accordance with the guidelines of the election, have been given a full delegates list 6 weeks away from today. They've been given this information 6 weeks. And in fact, let me also say that even the provisional album that they have, it has been given to them 2 weeks now. So why now?
I wanted to just clarify something. You are saying that the database or the register, yes, which is the database for election, has been made available 6 weeks to the election. What Dr. Dufour is asking for is the photo album register. Is there a difference between the register and the photo album register?
Okay, so the differences are that, one, the voters register, the delegates list, is a creation of the election guidelines. That same document was what we used for the constituency elections, used for regional elections, and used same for national elections, depending on the level of involvement. Let me say that you know that the branches were not involved in electing national executives. But at this point, we are going to involve the branches. Now, with the issue of the album, they are called advanced features. So we're going to have a document that has advanced features away from the delegates list. So some of these features are that we are going to export data from the voter information of the voter, the original EC data into our database to create the album. So in this album, you will see a picture of a voter so that you can validate that voter before he's able to cast a vote. It is not as if that is the original document on which we are going to use to do the election. It is just supplementary to the process. So if you have challenges with a supplementary provision, that error or that challenge in itself does not negate the credibility of the original document being given to you. Even if the database that was given to them, that is the delegates list, that is the same information they relied upon to validate the album that was given to them. So we are not riding away the fact that there could be errors. If you have identified errors and given the assurance that those errors will be corrected, I don't think that we have an issue here. Unless, of course, there is something more than what the candidate is seeking to do.
Okay, so
and that is all the
fair enough. Now, Mustafa, in terms of the problems they have, so they are saying that, yes, you are saying they have the delegates list, but the album is what they use the delegates list to check against. They are saying that 55 constituencies albums are not yet ready. And that they also say some 74,799 names have been created to take part in the election, which cannot be verified because of the scanty information in the photo album. And then, for no reason, another 3,910 voters in the 220 have been disenfranchised. So this is the substance of their claim. Are you saying that between your team, the EC, and the Dufour team, you are able to sit down and resolve these matters without even going to court? You're saying that it's possible to clarify these issues on the basis of the register given and the album. You think this can be done without a court matter?
Thank you very much, Bernard. I think fundamental, we are aware that they were given uncompleted photo album. As we speak, that information is completed, and the default team will still take delivery of the remaining copies, as they were assured by the elections committee.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a matter for us to sit as stakeholders and discuss if our agreement or the consensus on the table is that the album has some errors that will pose assurance issues. We will still take a decision to say that let's go by what was provided for in the elections guidelines so that we can have the election. Mind you, that data is very accurate, and the default team does not have a problem with that data. And so I believe that if we had sat together, these matters would have been resolved.
This is interesting. So Mr. Gbande is insisting that the photo album is not the real thing, that there's already a register with names, and the photo album is to be sort of validated against that register. So if you have the register 6 weeks to time, you don't need a photo album. We probably need to speak to the default team again to get insights on that. But I don't know how surprising that is, because there's no reference to the
register itself.
In the case, there's no reference to any database. In the case, what we see is the photo album throughout the case.
In the Electoral Commission statement,
yeah,
it states it makes reference to the register. It makes reference to the register and not a photo album. And so that's sort of...
So that seems to suggest that what Gbande is saying could be true in terms of the register.
In terms of the register. But the point again is that the register comes with names, individual names that you may not know. And if you look at the delegate list for the election of presidential candidate for the NDC, it starts all the way from the branch level. Every branch executive committee member elected and co-opted. Every constituency executive committee member, every regional executive committee member moves to the members of parliament, moves to representative of each affiliated organization determined at the preceding National Congress.
Wow.
Now, the list is the electoral college is broad to the extent that you may be someone who will be eyeing the presidential candidate role, but would not know these persons individually. And so if the photo album exists, at least for that, you can put a face to the name.
So there's names given in the register 6 weeks to time are just names.
What
the default team wants is pictures, and they want to know who the people are, whether they are real human beings.
So if they pick the photo album and get to Hansen Agyemang, then they know that this is the face to Hansen Agyemang.
All right.
And then goes to the register that has been given to them and compare it to see if indeed it is the said person who has been identified here. By knowing the person's name, and you have your campaign coordinator who is at the branch level, your campaign coordinator can then identify these people.
This is still the point of view. We are trying to gauge the likelihood of the NDC holding their presidential and parliamentary primaries this Saturday. We'll come back to bring you more. Stay with us.
Finally, anyone can become a house owner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You Go Flip, a real estate gaming platform that allows you to play and stand a chance of winning a house or cash or consolidated prizes, such as savings towards a house. Simple and easy to play. Visit www.yougoflip.com. Buy a ticket to enter the game. Wait for the end of the game to enjoy the win. Anyone can win. Flip it or own it. You Go Flip. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Play responsibly, not for persons below 18 years, and gaming can be addictive.
Welcome back. So tonight, the point of view wants to know whether the NDC primaries will take place on Saturday. So far, we've not asked that direct question to Mustafa Gbande. We've asked him to explain his understanding of the issues at 6 weeks to time. The EC statement seems to suggest that it's a register they are looking for. The Dufour team is using the nomenclature of a photo album register, which is a different thing from the original register. Let's wrap up with Gbande. So, Deputy General Secretary, should we prepare for Saturday? Should we get our T-shirts and our election gadgets, or we should wait for Monday court case to know what to do? I'm talking about with the media now, as we prepare to, because covering elections is a big thing. So, what should we do? We want advice from you. What should we do ahead of Saturday?
Okay, so before we get to that question, we were discussing something before the line went on.
Yes, you were talking about how you had responded to them and you were differentiating. Yes, if you can wrap that up and then give me the final answer.
I was only posing a question that within a 6-week interval that we gave them the delegates list, if they thought that the information they needed in the delegates list was inadequate, don't you think that within the 6 weeks they would have raised those issues and those issues would have been addressed? But not to wait until they are given an album and then 3 days to elections, they are in court. Now, to come back to your last question, I think that as we speak, we are engaging stakeholders to try and resolve the disagreements. I don't think that the disagreement is so much that we cannot resolve. It is possible that before Saturday, we can resolve this matter out of court. Or better still, court would have resolved it anyway, maybe on Friday. And so provisionally, you have to be prepared. But in case
the court is Monday. The court is 15th. So, as for if we wait for court, Saturday is not coming on.
Yes, so that's why I'm saying that you should prepare partially.
Okay.
If the election doesn't come on, it's itself news. We'll discuss what led to the failure of the election.
Okay.
That is a big issue to discuss because Team Dr. Kobret before understands the level of investment and commitments that have gone into this preparation, to the extent that because of his injunction or his action, it is going to affect.
All right. Thank you very much, Mustafa Gbande. Let me turn to Edem Antonio, who's the spokesman for Dr. Duko. Edem, thanks for joining us on the point of view. Edem, so I just can you hear me, Edem?
Yeah, I can hear you, Bernard.
So my first question is, the Deputy General Secretary has told us that 6 weeks to the election, all candidates or all sides were given a register of names, and that what you are asking for is a photo album register. He says that the register of names is the main database for the election, and it appears as if the photo album register is an additional document. Is this correct?
Bernard, that's not correct. And like I stated to you, Dr. Dufour wrote the party on 2 different occasions requesting for the photo album. Now, I've heard Amaliba, who is part of the party, enhance the process and make sure that the election is transparent, free and fair. So the photo album argument originated from the party. So if that document that they provided was irrelevant, why then do you provide it? So this argument between a basic list and a photo album is neither here nor there. The question is, are there infractions in the photo album that the party generated and handed over to the candidate? The question is here. The question again is, did Dr. Dufour team submit evidence of the infraction to the party that the party did not formally write to respond? Yes, they didn't. So this argument of providing us 6 weeks ago a delegate list is immaterial to the current discussion we are having. The party did give us a photo album of 220 constituencies, and in fact,
We're having some technical challenges with Edem, but I think it's clear from what he's saying that they are not on the same page. I think you can confidently say Saturday is not going to come on.
From the look of things.
Yeah, from that, because he's saying, look, what Mr. Bande is saying is not accurate. So, Adam, if you're, Adam, are you still there?
I'm here, Bernard.
Yes, so I just wanted to test that, the point you made about the register. So you are saying that the register must be used in tandem with the photo album for a complete picture. We cannot use either of them alone.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And it's important to note that even with the register that Bande and Co want to rely on, does have infractions that we are ready to stick to. But we wanted to reconcile that with the photo register, with the photo album that the party intended to provide. So whatever excuse they want to give does not really stand currently. If they should speak to the photo album, are there infractions to the photo album or not? Yes. As Dr. Before provided them the evidence of the said infractions, yes. They did not even have the courtesy to respond to the three letters that Dr. Dufour's team had written to them. So whatever claims they are having is something we can ignore. The law courts will decide if they do not intend to fix the infractions that their attention has been drawn to.
Just finally, he said to me that yes, they hadn't responded to the letter, but the election committee had met with your representatives to try and resolve the matter. So the fact that a letter was not responded to does not mean that actions were not being taken with the team to resolve the matter. So can you confirm that since your April meeting, there had been meetings with since your April letter, there had been meetings with the election committee or the election director to address the issues?
Then can that really be an excuse that a stakeholder in an election has written to you three different occasions and you did not acknowledge to address the concerns? Some of these things we really need to look at it. A serious institution, you received a letter on 3 different occasions and you've not responded to. And it's important to note that the 4th May meeting even does not make reference to the letters that Dr. Dufa has written to them, meaning they treated those letters with contempt. It's important that they I don't even know what to say, Bernard, but they just have not done their job right.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you a final hypothetical question. So today is Wednesday. If a meeting were to happen tomorrow or Friday, what are the chances that matter could be resolved ahead of Saturday? So because I'm asking on the basis of preparing to cover an election. We were preparing to do this election coverage on Saturday. Your injunction has come. EC says they can't do it. Is there any chance at all that Saturday can still come up and that the ball is in the court of the party?
Bernard, honestly, we are talking about data, and I know you have love for data. If the party can magically fix the infractions that have been identified, then we would have the election on Saturday. But from where I sit and the infractions identified, I do not think that we will be able to have the election because of the infractions identified. They will have to fix it.
All right. Thank you, Adam Antonio. Adam is the spokesperson for the Dr. Dufour camp. So, Hansen, what's happening? Saturday, what are we doing?
From the look of things, the options here, the case should be held earlier. So that should be Thursday, Friday, highly impossible. Dufour's team should withdraw the suit. Clearly from Antonio, they do not have any intention. They want even 5 weeks to prepare. The parties fix the infractions. Maybe they can do some magic. If they can fix the infractions before Friday, before court closes at 4 p.m. on Friday, perhaps that may...
So Thursday is the big day. We should watch what happens tomorrow.
We should watch what happens
But as we sit here today, Wednesday, Saturday is not happening.
From the look of things.
It's not happening. All right. Thank you, Hansen Ajiman, for being with us on the point of view. Hansen is one of our key correspondents, both in the political and the legal side. And following this case, we spoke first to Adam Antonio, who is the spokesman for Dr. Dufour. We then spoke to Mustafa Gbande, General Secretary Deputy for NDC, and we spoke to Adam again. It doesn't look like the election is going to happen on Saturday, but who knows? Thursday is a big day. Who knows what will happen on Thursday or Friday? Thanks for watching. My name is Bernard Abler. We'll be with you next time. Bye-bye.
I think Galamsey is a mental problem. It's a mental problem. It's a mindset problem that you think you can steal today and still eat your cake tomorrow. I think that if you could go to the next slide, that we have to appreciate to fix and restore is always more expensive than to spoil. Spoiling takes an instant. Those of you who are in married or relationships, you slap your spouse. I'm not recommending this. It takes a second to do that action, but I'm telling you, pay for it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So it is better not to spoil it in the first place. My third point is that a full-time problem like Galamsey cannot be solved by part-time responses.
In Sechereman, the source water we said is Pra, and then these are the supply areas. The whole of Sechereman sends water to Elmina, and then also augments the supply from Brimsu to serve the whole of Cape Coast. It has a production capacity of 30,000 cubic meter per day, which is 6.7 mgd, that's million gallons of water per day. But currently, because of Galamsey and other issues, we only do about 47% capacity utilization. And then the losses that we incur through the production process is about 10 to 20%. There are interesting figures for the color and turbidity over a period. This is we are using the base year of 2016 to current figures. And from Sechereman, when the turbidity is beyond 1,800 MTU, the system cannot run. Currently, alum usage on the plant has actually doubled. And then you have the treatment costs also going up there by 50%. Next slide, please.
And your costs moving to, is that 93,000
Yes,
per
per
month?
month.
Coming from what figure?
From about 60,000.
So 60,000, you're now putting an extra of at least 30,000.
That's right.
For you to give us less water.
What? Yes.
Okay.
Then in Konongo, we have a plant that has been designed to do about 19,000 cubic meter of water per day. So this is this picture is talking about Chebi. These are intake at Chebi. It also depends on the Birim River. Next slide. Then this is Birim at Bunsu.
Okay.
Bunsu, where they said they are not doing Galamsey.
And this is what we have. Okay.
That's right. The next slide. This is Birim River at Osino. Next slide. Still at Osino. But there's something interesting about Osino. Yes. I want to speak to this particular drone image that we took just this year. So you look at Osino and what is happening. It was interesting to note that about a month or two ago, when the minister came round for site visits on what is happening, we saw that they had a shed over there, and on the shed they had written, "We were born to be Galamseyers."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is what is happening.
So this is from that side,
Yes.
where they were born to be Galamseyers.
Where they are born to be Galamseyers.
See.
And nothing can change their behavior. Look, we can talk about the casualties that are there. And you can imagine treating this kind of water. The water has been diverted in so many ways, making it very difficult for us as a company to operate.